and this is a good thing for young men to understand, is you're going to pay one way or another. There's no way out of that. So choose your method of payment. That's what you can do. And weirdly enough, if you choose the proper method of payment, the price you pay is one you would pay happily.
Hi, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Philosophy Insights. Today, we look at an absolutely great recent interview with Jordan Peterson by Tom Bilyeu. Also, thanks to Tom for allowing us to use his content. It is a tendency in us humans, the inclination to exert control over others. We must ask ourselves, what drives us towards authoritarian governments? In our current social climate, we observe the feminine archetype rising to a position of excessive power. Traditionally, femininity has been associated with the desire to avoid uncertainty and being protective. This is especially useful when it comes to the needs of one's infant. However, when such traits become politically dominant, they can lead to sacrificing our very freedoms for a mere illusion of security. As the government panders to the feminine emotions, it uses the concern for safety by enriching themselves and infantilizing its citizens.
I spend a lot of my time absolutely freaked out about the authoritarianism that I see creeping in. As somebody who grew up in the 80s, like this is just whiplash.
Rampaging in.
Yeah, it's insanity.
Oh, yeah.
And it scares me because it's people telling me I can't
700 million CCTVs in China.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, they have full gate recognition, right?
The
so
fact
even
they
if
have
you're
locked
masked,
down knives in people's houses,
yeah.
What? That's really scary. That freaks me out in a way people don't understand. Yeah.
Right. That's what makes them tyrants, right? There'll be nothing there'll be no autonomy. That's the plan. Like zero autonomy. Because, and if you haven't done anything wrong, you'll have nothing to worry about.
Uh-huh.
It's like, well, good, great. Find me someone who hasn't done anything wrong, who has nothing to worry about. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So I heard at one point you were spending like $90,000 a month fighting everything that's coming at you. That's crazy. So how do people who just absolutely cannot do that, how do they push back?
Substitute adventure for security.
Okay.
Security, it's like, you're going to pursue security, are you? How's that going to work? You're going to die. You're going to encounter malevolence. Like you can defer the encounter to some degree, although not very successfully. There's no security. And then the thing is, that's the thing that's so interesting to understand is you don't want security. You're not an infant. It's not what you're after. You're actually after adventure. So where do you find your adventure? Aim up, tell the truth, and adventure will come your way. And then that's so much better than security that there's no looking back. It's so incredibly exciting. It's uncharted territory. The thing about the truth is that you don't know what's going to happen when you utter it. You have to let go. So if I could come in here, calculating what I want from this interview, figuring out how it's going to increase my social status or make me more money. And I mean, if it does those things, okay, but that's not the aim. The aim is to come in here and have a wrestling match. And why? Because I have faith in the outcome. So what's the faith? The faith is whatever happens to you when you tell the truth is the best thing that could happen, no matter how it looks to you.
The discussion of the costs associated with speaking the truth can be expanded into a reflection on the value of integrity in modern society. While there may be short-term disadvantages to honesty, the long-term benefits to personal character and interpersonal trust are immense, especially if we think about it at the societal level. A culture that prioritizes truth over comfort will be a more robust and resilient society overall.
That's a statement of faith. Now, there's an alternative statement, which is, oh, no. I'll say something and there'll be a consequence, and I'll have faith that that consequence is the defining, what would you say, defining feature of that utterance. I said something, I got in trouble, therefore I shouldn't have said it. It's like, well, what if you get in trouble, but like 3 weeks later, everything's way better for you? Christ, like, it's not like there's any shortage of things like that in life. That's what work is. Work is, I'm going to do this thing now that's difficult so that something better will happen in the future. Well, truth is the ultimate investment in that manner. Definitely. That's why truth is what stores up treasure in heaven. That's what that means. And so how can people learn this? Try telling the truth. I mean, I wrote a chapter about this in one of my books that was quite accessible. It's like, start by not saying things you know to be a lie. Just start with that. Play with it. See what happens. See what happens.
Walk me through the morning when that person does that. I'll talk to young men right now. They say what they think is true. They get fired from their job. Then
they probably bit off more than they could chew, right? The eternal sin of Adam, to bite off more than he could chew. It's like, if you don't know what you're doing and you're in a dangerous place, maybe, start on your knees, humbly, carefully. Don't go out there and brandish your new truth and make yourself into an idiot martyr so you can tell yourself that you're the Messiah, with one utterance. That's not wise. You have to be as wise as serpents, right? That's the idea. This isn't a game. You have to do it with your eyes open, and if you pay attention, you'll see your opportunity. You'll see. It'll make itself manifest to you. You'll see where there's a choice point where you'll be conversing with someone and you could take the easy route out that you usually take, or you could dare right then and there. And there's an excitement about that. And then you'll try it. And, the other person, maybe you're kind of a cringing milksop sort of person. And so you're being intimidated by one of your friends who's actually a bully that you hate. And you decide at that moment that you're finally going to say at least a fraction of what you've been thinking. And, it takes him aback. And then actually likes you better and is 10% less likely to bully you. Now, you might get punched too. Hey.
It's real.
That's right. This is real. It's the ultimate game. I suppose the ultimate game is what's real. But it's not like there's not consequences.
When we prioritize security above freedom, we trade the very essence of what it means to live in a free society for a cage that's gilded with promises of safety, but void of substantive freedom. The excessive drive for safety also undermines the fundamental principle of personal responsibility. By shielding ourselves from every conceivable risk, we erode the notion that individuals should navigate challenges. This dependency culture cripples our ability to manage life's inherent uncertainties. True strength and character are forged through trials, not through avoidance.
One of the other thing you have to understand, and this is a good thing for young men to understand, is you're going to pay one way or another. There's no way out of that. So choose your method of payment. That's what you can do. And weirdly enough, if you choose the proper method of payment, the price you pay is one you would pay happily. That's why, see, Abraham is called upon to sacrifice his son, for example, and in the service of God. And he says yes, and then he doesn't have to. And that's right. And it's the same. We know this even in our families. A mother who will sacrifice her child to the world, let the child go, foster that child's independence, offer the child to be broken by the world, full-heartedly will get that child back, right? The child won't leave. It's so interesting because the child leaves, but not really, right? Because that's the child who wants to maintain a relationship with the mother for the rest of the child's life, who wants that mother as a grandmother and who wants her around and who will return as much as is appropriate, but no more. And so everything you give away, you'll get back if you give it away in the right spirit. And we know that even on the reciprocal front. I worked with many, many professors and scientists, but let's say as a graduate student, I had a great graduate advisor, Robert Peel, who's still alive and who I still work with. That case in point. I loved working in Bob's lab, partly because he was insanely generous with his ideas. He'd just give them away. Like there were professors who they'd have an idea, and they'd shelter the damn thing. It's like, this is my idea and someone's going to steal it. It's like, first of all, probably it's not your idea. Second of all, it's not that great anyway, so don't be so concerned. There's not a lot of people lining up to steal your ideas. And third, it's not that easy to steal ideas anyways. So there's a fair bit of arrogance and lack of faith in that. But we could even imagine psychophysiologically what happens to you if you give away your ideas. So let's say, you're blessed with a creative spirit and you're just giving your ideas away like mad, like you're a tree that's full of fruit and you're just distributing it. Well, everybody that you give an idea to is thrilled about it, and they reflect that in their enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm is rewarding, and that reward creates a dopaminergic kick, and that dopaminergic kick reinforces the dominance of the creative spirit, and so then you have more ideas. Right. And so that's a great example of how you get back what you give away in spades. It's by far the best strategy. That's why Christ says that, if someone asks you for, well, I don't remember this phrase exactly, but, you give the person who asks your coat, you walk the mile with them. You give more than you're called upon to give, even to your enemies. Why? Because there's no better strategy than that by any stretch of the imagination. This is why there's such an emphasis in the Old Testament on hospitality. Be welcoming and productive generosity. Productive generosity. Well, what does that ensure? It ensures your own security, weirdly enough. Because if you give to 1,000 people and then you're in trouble, you have 1,000 people who are ready to help. Maybe you could give to 100,000 people or 1,000,000 people. I mean, how could you possibly put anything in a more solid bank than in the goodwill you generated in the embodied imaginations of other people? That's the kingdom. That's treasures in heaven. And they are an eternal form of treasure in some sense, not least because that reputation can last in some cases throughout the ages. And then it's part of the manifestation of that underlying spirit of creative generosity that gives rise to the cosmos itself.
How do you see these ideas playing out in today's world? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this exploration, please like, share, and subscribe for more thoughtful discussions.